This program is sponsored by Cynthia McIntosh.
My name is Cynthia McIntosh, and I welcome you to Nuggets of Truth broadcast. On today, dear hearts, I want to share with you the testimony from someone who is telling us about their story of an experience in a pit. I take us to the story in Psalms chapter 40, verse 1 through 3. Listen to this. This is what they said. I waited patiently for the Lord, and he inclined to me and heard my cry. He also brought me up out of a horrible pit, out of the miry clay, and set my feet upon a rock and established my steps. He has put a new song in my mouth, praise to our God. Many will see it and fear and will trust in the Lord. On today, I just want to share with you some powerful thoughts from this great testimony of discomfort that led to a place of comfort for this situation. And that's what a pit will do, where you hit rock bottom. You're closed in with only one way out. But there's no way out except to go to the Lord. And so the testimony of this individual in the pit, which we oftentimes will find ourselves in, what they did, they waited patiently for the Lord. Yes. When you find yourself in a place where you've hit rock bottom, whether it's relational, physical, financial, mental, a place where you need to move from where you're at to another place of relief. The one thing you have to do is to wait patiently for the Lord. In other words, stay there. Stay where you're at until something happens. And for some of us, we have to wait on the Lord. All of our resources have run out, and we must do what this individual did in this text. They waited on the Lord. And the good news in this testimony, he says, he inclined to me. In other words, his awaiting attracted the Lord to him. You see, dear hearts, God is attracted to people who wait on him. Oh yes, sometimes we have to stay there long enough to be tested to see if we know him, because Satan will bring to us what I call answers that give you a false sense of security. Oh yes, do this and do that, and sometimes it is so obvious that your way out of your pit, it's an easy way out, but it's not the right way out. And what you learn to do is to wait on God, for God will do something that will bring peace and comfort to your heart. So in this testimony, the person says, I waited patiently for the Lord, and he inclined unto me. In other words, the Lord showed up. Oh yes, God will show up. And the reason why he showed up, because during the waiting, as we will often do, we go through what I call a season of crying. Oh yes. In this text, the psalmist says, and he heard my cry. Oh yes, dear hearts, all of us will have seasons of crying where we're talking to the Lord. The tears will flow. And it's something that is good for us. It's nothing wrong with crying out to God. Spending time on our knees, waking up in the middle of the night, just crying out to the Lord. And in this text, his crying out resulted. The psalmist says that he came out of the horrible pit. Yes. He also brought me out of the horrible pit. He brought me out of a place of loneliness. He brought me out of a place of darkness. He brought me out of a place of feeling lost. Oh yes, some of our pits, when we're in difficult situations, we feel lost, we feel empty. But you know what, dear hearts, the good thing about a pit is that it forces you to look up. Oh yes, it forces you to look up. The psalmist says, I will lift mine eyes unto the hills, from which cometh my help. My help cometh from the Lord. Sometimes the Lord isolates us from carnal, natural resources and answers to force us to look up, just for a season. God never plants us in darkness that will last forever. And you know why? Because there is a lesson to the pit that once learned, he releases you. Let me say that again. There are lessons we learn in the pits of life. And once learned, he releases us. That's why we have to be careful, dear hearts, is to work our way through the process. Be careful who you surround yourself with during this time, because sometimes they will try to pull you out into their way of thinking. But we got to be sure we stay connected to God and to his word. And we need to surround ourselves with praying people. Oh yes, for you see, dear hearts, pits of life are schools of learning. They're schoolrooms of learning. It's a place of growth. It's a faith-building experience. It's a place of new beginnings. You see, your pit is a doorway to the next season of your life. And over time, I'm a witness, as you run into difficult seasons of life, you realize that it's time for something to change in your life. You run out of what you had. For some of us, we never started out with. And we need to rise to a new place. And I'm a witness, God will let you rise up slowly but surely. Yes. Out of that pit. The psalmist calls it a miry clay. In other words, a deep mud where you feel like you're sinking and settling. But God will rescue you. And in this text, the psalmist says, he set my feet upon a rock. In other words, he gave me a new place of comfort, a new place of stability, a new place of sustainability, something that is solid, where your life will never be the same again. Oh yes, dear hearts. Many of you listening to me right now, you're going through something, and once you come out, you will never go back to that place again. Your life will be that of the Israelites when they left Egypt. God destroyed their enemy. The enemy did not have the ability to continue their attack on their lives to make them slaves. Sometimes God will remove you and destroy your enemy. And for some pits, God fills it up with dirt where you will never be there again. Yes, the psalmist says the Lord set their feet upon the rock, and he will do the same for you. I want you to know this, that God's blessings, when it comes into your life, comes without sorrow. Say that again. God's blessings come without sorrow. Let me go deeper into this thought in Proverbs chapter 10, verse 22. It says, the blessings of the Lord makes one rich, and he adds no sorrow to it. Proverbs 10:22. The blessings of the Lord will make you rich, and he will add no sorrow to it. You see, God's blessings start out good, and it just keeps getting better and better and better. Let me say that again. God's blessings for you will start out good and just keep getting better and better and better. The psalmist's testimony goes on to say, and the Lord established my steps. In other words, God gave him, and he'll give it to you, a plan of action. After he pulls you out of the pit, he then reestablishes you on a new road of new beginnings, a new road into a business, a new road and to going back to school. He'll place you on a new road of marriage. Oh, yes. Sometimes he'll place you on a new road of widowhood. He'll make your road of singleness a blessing. Oh, hopefully you're listening to me today. He'll put you on a new road of coming out of a season of not being able to bear children to a season of being fruitful. Oh, yes. Sometimes we're in a pit of infertility where we cannot bring forth what we desire to have. Oh, yes, beloveds. God will establish your steps. It'll just get better and better and better. And the psalmist says it like this. He put a new song in my mouth. You see, God blesses you from the inside out. The new beginning results in the birth of a new song in your heart. A new story to think and reflect on. Oh, yes. It becomes the prosperity birthed from the wound of your pit. The psalmist goes on to say, praise to our God. Many will see it and fear and will trust in the Lord. Dear hearts, I want to end with this thought that God blesses you to bring people to him. God blesses you to bring people to him. You become his light in the midst of darkness. Oftentimes we wonder, why God, why did you put me here? There's just so much pain and misery and lack and absence of faith. And there's so much sin and so much violence. Sometimes God has to plant the answer in the midst of the trouble. And sometimes you are the answer to the problem. Dear heart, sometimes it's very painful and very uncomfortable to allow ourselves to be in the midst of chaos and of trouble and of fear and of doubt. But the Lord will do that in order to bring his people into the place that they need to be. Oh, yes, God will position you to a place of prosperity in the midst of poverty. You become the answer. You become the reason that people hold on and don't give up. You become the light in their midst of darkness. Sometimes you get hurt in the midst of being the answer like Jesus was. He brought hope, and yet they hated him. They will hate you also as you take a stand to be God's answer in the midst of hopelessness. Well, beloveds, I've got to go. God bless you. I hope to share again with y'all next week.
This program was sponsored by Cynthia McIntosh. To hear this program again and others, go to FamilyValuesRadio1010.com and click on the podcast page and find this program and many others right there on FamilyValuesRadio1010.com.